Hi, and thank you for joining me for another video. Friends, today's topic is going to make a lot of people upset, but it really doesn't matter. Why? Because stupidity must always be challenged and the truth said. And today is no exception. Today, my friends, I'm going to talk to you about how the original Jews weren't white. That's right, the original Jews were not white.
What the hell just happened?
Now, I'm no dummy. I know that after Jerusalem was sacked by the Romans, Jews were taken to the far corners of the empire, and that included black Jews, which have always made up a large segment of the Jewish world.
What is he doing?
He's beginning to believe.
Do you know that I can pull out the slave ships out of the Bible and show you that the true children of Israel would serve captivity through slave ships? Who are these people? You can't say the Jewish people are the Jews. They're not the Jews. They're not suffering the curses according to the Bible. How can they be the Jews and they run everything you see today? The Bible said the Jews would feel no curse. The Jews would go in and call those slave ships and serve all other nations. This is what you will not learn in religion. That the poor people in the Bible are actually the people of the Bible. You cannot learn this in your religion.
Greetings, everyone. 90% of Bible prophecy is for this end time today, but there's only a tiny few people that really understand Bible prophecy. God says that in the Bible, that you should prove all things. 1 Thessalonians 5 and verse 21, prove all things, don't be led by a man. You're cursed if you are, but you have to prove all things to know and understand Bible prophecy. I want to give you a key today that unlocks Bible prophecy. The Bible is a book about Israel, and all of mankind is going to be brought into the family of Israel before this is over. But if you're going to understand that 1/3 of your Bible, which is prophecy, you're going to have to understand who Israel is. You really do need it to understand Bible prophecy. You simply can't understand it unless you know who Israel is.
I don't think I have to bombard you with references, for I think that all Jews who would take the time and think about it would agree with me that the original Jews weren't white. Actually, this in Jewish life is more of a social problem than a biblical one. And the problem actually occurs when Jews begin to let their surroundings dictate to them what Jews should look like. And being that at least 80% of Jews nowadays descend from European stock, and actually 93% of Jews in the 1930s were Ashkenazim, you can see where they come to that conclusion. And so if you consider yourself Jewish and you happen to belong to the white race, you definitely have converts in your genealogy, which really, if you think about it, really shouldn't affect your faith in any way. However, one way that religious Jews have contributed to this problem is mainly with the rise of mysticism. Look, mysticism unfortunately places a huge emphasis on a person's genetic purity, and we see this how they classify souls as inferior and superior and place great importance on who you're related to or descend from, assuming that if one was descendant of Gentiles, that individual would be tainted in some way spiritually. So obviously the idea that one is not Semitically or genetically pure would really throw a wrench into that whole mystical pursuit. Actually, this mystical movement, which was basically launched in the 13th century, worked in making the Jewish role in the world an insular and purposeless one, making Jews feel that because blood mattered, they have nothing to offer Gentiles. In other words, because a non-Jew did not house a Jewish soul, he was in some way irredeemable. So that made them basically only focus on themselves. Compare that nonsense to the ideas brought down by the Rambam before the Zohar was written that actually obligated all Jews to bring non-Jews to Judaism. Or with what it states in the Gemara that the reason we were exiled from our land was to acquire converts. And don't we see that even the Romans are descendants of Edom, which was a descendant of Esav, who was the grandson of Avraham Avinu, the first Jew? Do we say that they also have Jewish blood running through their veins? Well, in that sense, also a Moloch and Yishmael. Think about it, my friends. And didn't Moshe Rabbeinu and Yosef HaTzadik also marry converts? And in that sense, didn't all the patriarchs in some way marry non-Jews or people who started off as non-Jewish? So the later mystical approach must be wrong. Another reason why race or ethnicity has become so important in Jewish life, at least in the last 100 years, was the establishment of the State of Israel. Look, friends, it's no secret that the founders of the State of Israel were not religious and thus had to find some other way to justify settling the land. In other words, if a European secular Jew did not solidify his Jewish identity with being religious, the only way he can make any claim to the land was out of race or ethnicity. So if they would admit to the rest of the world that they descend from converts to Judaism instead of Middle Easterners, internationally, from a secular perspective, they would have no claim to the land of Israel. However, religiously, if they were descended from converts and were still keeping Torah, they could still claim the land as theirs from a Torah perspective. And even according to Torah, though someone has a Semitic or so-called Jewish genealogy and they don't keep the mitzvahs, they don't keep the commandments in the Torah, they have no claim to the land of Israel and actually can't even call themselves chosen by God in any way. And today, one can even see how the state gives priority to white, typically secular Jews over colored religious ones, either from India or Africa. Being that the original Jews were not white, how did 80% of the Jewish world today come to be white? Now, I'm sure that many of you have heard the claim that Ashkenazi Jews are really descendant of the Khazars or the kingdom of Khazaria. The idea that all Ashkenazim are descended from one kingdom near the Caspian Sea is just silly. And this is usually a claim made by anti-Semites who want to try to discredit European Jews as not really being Jewish. I would say that the vast majority of Ashkenazi Jews are not only descendant or partially descended from Khazaria, but are actually come from all the other European nations. Historians actually teach that after the kingdom of Khazaria converted to Judaism, they sent out emissaries or missionaries with the goal of converting everyone to Judaism. This does not mean that all Ashkenazim can trace their lineage back to Eretz Israel, but that those who can had ancestors who most likely married converts and thus gradually physically changed their complexion. Everything I'm telling you here is common sense. And the problem the world has is that they are scared to confront Jews with any historical inaccuracies because they're scared to be labeled anti-Semitic. But friends, common sense would tell you that one cannot go from having more melanin to less melanin without letting outsiders into their gene pool. That the Rabbi said after the Churban, after the destruction of the Second Temple, Jews were seeking converts like crazy, to the point that the historians write that 10% of the Roman Empire had converted to Judaism, to the point that Emperor Hadrian had to order Jews to stop proselytizing under threat of death. Do you hear what I just said? That at the time of the Second Temple, there were more converts to Judaism than born Jews. And for those who for some reason think that this is some kind of European phenomenon, history teaches us of another kingdom that also converted to Judaism. And this kingdom was located in the Middle East. So we could probably also say that the vast majority of Sephardi Jews are also a mixture of the surrounding peoples. The name of the kingdom that was converted was the kingdom of Hadid, which was part of the Parthian Empire. It's fairly known. It comes out in the Gemara. You guys can study it for yourself. So honestly, where is the purity?